Hello and welcome to my video on Power Laws 2. So these are the rest of the power laws that we hadn't looked at on the last video, and this is from topic 2.5 from the Math Makes Sense 9 textbook. So there's basically three power laws that we haven't looked at, and the first two are almost so obvious that you almost don't even need to talk about them, but we'll mention them here so that you can see different ways of getting to it, but I'll explain why it makes sense also. So write as a product of powers, sorry. So I'm going to first just say what the answer is, and then I'm going to explain why this is. So right away here we've got bracket 2 times 8 bracket to the 4. So if we're thinking about bed mass, what would we have to do? Well, with bed mass, we would have 10 to the 4, right? So we would have done the inside first because it's in brackets. But this is also totally valid, and if it asks you product of powers, this is how you would do it. It makes it a little bit more sleek, especially if you don't know how to multiply all the different options in there. So this is how you do it. 2 to the 4 times 8 to the 4. So we just take the exponent and it applies to both things inside the brackets. Now this only works if it is multiplication or division. And so we're going to see this case here as well. So if we did 9 divided by 7 and then all bracketed to the exponent 6, you'd have 9 to the 6 divided by 7 to the 6, or just another way of writing it is 9 to the 6 over 7 to the 6. Okay, so we've got basically the same thing again. Now, this is why this works. So we're just going to show it for the first one. So, first one here, we had 2 times 8 to the 4. Now, what you can remember... Oh, did I say... Okay, earlier on I said that this is 10 to the 4 because I added 2 plus 8. That's a horrible mistake. Sorry about that. It's 16 to the 4. Sorry, 2 times 8 equals 16, not 10. I made a mistake. Okay, anyway, so this was in here in green. That was our original equation. And whenever we have an exponent, it talks about what's right next to it. What's right next to it in this case is the bracket. Okay? So, what we would have is 2 times 8 bracket times 2 times 8 bracket times 2 times 8 bracket times 2 times 8 bracket. So, you can see our base here is done 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now, thinking about the fact that we can go any order for multiplication, doesn't matter, we can rearrange this to look slightly differently. Let's count up all of the different 2's. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 2's. So we've got 2 to the 4. And we have how many 8's? 1, 2, 3, 4 8's. So we've got 8 to the 4. And you should notice that this is the same. So because this rule with bases is true, and because we can see it take place 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then we can rearrange, that lets us get this answer. Okay? And it works the same way for division, which is nice. Okay, so that's good. Now let's look at this last version. Write as a single power. Now, this is, so far we've talked about the quotient law and the product law, which was if you have 4 to the 2 times 4 to the 3, if you're multiplying, you just add the exponents. So that was it. and quotient law was same thing, just slightly different. You subtract. Okay, so there you go, to the 1. So 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 minus 2 is 1. So far we've done adding, subtracting, and now we're going to do multiplying. So multiplying is what this is. Okay? So if we have a power, an exponent to the exponent to the exponent, or even just twice, or however many times, we just multiply them. So here, our answer would be 4 to the 3 times 4 times 2. So what is 4 to the 3? What is 3 times 4 times 2? It is 12 times 2, 24. 4 to the 24th. Okay? So, again, not very complicated. So 4 to the 3. We multiply the exponents. Okay, so not too complicated. And I'm going to mention this one as well, because it will help explain things in the future, but it's not useful yet for Math 9. But there is an option to divide. Okay? Dividing is when you have the square root. Okay, so let's say you have 2 to the 2, and you take a square root of that. It's the square root, okay? So what ends up happening is you have 2 divided by the square root, which is 2. Okay, so this would be one way of showing it. And the other way is basically the same as this rule. And that's what this rule, the square root rule is. But you can have any number, right? You could have a cube root, or you can have a fourth root. Really, you can have any number. Or if you have a square root, this is the same thing as writing 2 to the 1/2. And if that's the same thing, then let's see if we can force it to fit this rule, this power rule. 4 to the 3 bracket to the 1/2. Well, what does that equal? 4 to the 1.5. Okay, 3, maybe I'll make that more obvious. 3 divided by 2. 4 to the 1.5. So this one does not matter for this topic with the textbook, but it is also very interesting. And it will be more helpful in the future. Okay, so I hope that helps you guys with 2.5 Power Laws 2, and I hope that this video helps you guys study.